Allah says, the meaning of His words, had we so willed, we could have given guidance to everyone. Aisha reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, for every people there is a feast, and this is our feast. From Sahih Bukhari. Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu reported that the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Mecca to Medina. The people of Medina used to have two festivals. On these 2 days they had carnivals and festivity. The Prophet asked the Ansar, the Muslims of Medina, about it. They replied that before Islam they used to have carnivals on these 2 joyous days. The Prophet ﷺ told them, instead of these 2 days, Allah has appointed 2 other days which are better, the days of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, Hadith Sahih. The root word for Eid is Adha, meaning he or it returned. In Lisan al-Arab, it means the return of joy, the time of return of joy. The word Eid appears in Surah Ma'idah in reference to a solemn festival. The disciples of Isa requested him to pray to Allah to send down a table spread with festive food to eat of it in order to satisfy their hearts and that to know that Isa was truly a prophet. It's in Quran 5, 115, 116. Isa prayed to Allah, O our Lord, send for us a table spread with festive food, that there may be for the first and the last of us a solemn festival, an Eid, as a sign from you, and provide for our sustenance, for you are the best of sustainers. Eid al-Fitr is celebrated as today on the first day of Shawwal at the completion of Ramadan. It is a very day of great joy. It is a true Thanksgiving day for believing men and women. On this day, Muslims show their joy that Allah has given to them to fulfill their obligation of fasting during the blessed month of Ramadan. Eid al-Adha is celebrated on the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah, just to give you that as a heads up. All over the Muslim world, the khatibs will stand up on this day and give you polite, inoffensive, self-congratulating khutbahs. And the ulama and the fuqaha will say nothing. And they will attend various Eid celebrations, some of them in palaces and mansions of the murderers and gangsters, where everyone will hug each other and give strong handshakes, and no one will say anything about what is going on, and keep acting like nothing is going on. Has anyone figured out how much money and time and effort has been spent on the campaign of the international mediators flying between Syria, Turkey, Jordan, various European capitals, UN headquarters in New York, to squeeze out a few days, maybe, of a tentative, non-binding truce? And all of this is in the hands of people who profess to be Muslims, of whom the Prophet ﷺ said, a Muslim is one from the transgressions of whose tongue and hands all Muslims are safe. It actually says a Muslim is one from whose tongue and hand all Muslims are safe. All of this is taking part against the backdrop where masajid are routinely destroyed in the name of sectarian rivalries between Shia and Sunnis and between various Sunni madhabs. Qurans are ground into the ground by the tread of tanks driven and owned by Muslim countries. Graves of Muslims are dug up, and the inhabitants are moved elsewhere lest they be worshipped, and the shrines of the awliya of Allah are jackhammered into oblivion in the name of some religious purity. We Muslims become incensed and riot in the streets when some kafir draws a cartoon or makes a movie, or a bunch of Hindu thugs tear down a masjid, as they did in India, or some ISAF crusader troops burn some pages of Quran. But when we do the same or worse, nothing is ever said. Does it register us, Muslims, that 81% of the death of Muslims in Afghanistan are caused by Muslims rather than by Ferengis, or the death toll for the last year in Iraq has not been from Americans or Brits or French killing Iraqis, but Sunni Iraqis killing Shia Iraqis, or Shia Iraqis killing Sunni Iraqis. The Prophet ﷺ said, "There will come a time for my people." Listen carefully. There will come a time for my people when there will remain nothing of the Quran except its outward form, and nothing of Islam except its name, and they will call themselves by this name, even though they are the people furthest from it. The masjids will be filled with people, but they will be empty of right guidance. The religious leaders, the fuqaha of that day, will be the most evil religious leaders under the heavens. Sedition and dissension will go out from them and return to them. That's from Ibn Abuya. This is the situation that we're faced with, the situation that we live in. Is anyone listening? Does anyone care? Does it matter at all? Or since it is Eid, should we all go out and have a good time and forget these terrible things? And not let them get in the way of our happiness and joy? That once again it is Eid. Allah says, "Inna Allaha la yughayyiru bima bi qawmin hatta yughayyiru bima bi anfusihim." Allah does not change a people until they change themselves. Undoubtedly, this is a vast change, which can only work on in increments. So we should also remember that Allah says in Ayat 28 of the same surah, and I'll just translate it into English because none of us really know Arabic. Those who believe, and whose hearts find rest in the remembrance of Allah, for surely in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. This is the time in which we're living. We can't look back at what happened. It's happened, and it continues to happen, and it happens every day. We have to be mindful of what the Prophet ﷺ told us, that there is coming a man from his family, and this man will restore peace and justice in the world. This is what we are looking for. We're not looking back at fiqh and all these many different things. We're looking forward to this person coming. And Allah has told us that He won't come until we change ourselves. He won't come until that time. This is very important to understand. So what can we do? We see the world as it is, and we see that the vast majority, 90% of the people or so, are living under that situation. Less than 10% are looking for Him. We have to look for Him, but we have to also change ourselves. How long will it take? We don't know. And some people say it's coming soon, some people say it's coming 1,000 years. We don't know. But nothing will happen until we change ourselves. So we have to work on changing ourselves. We have to work for peace and justice in the world. That has to be our outlook in the world. Peace and justice. These are the two most important things. This will change us and change ourselves and our families. And who's talking? Who's talking? For peace and justice. This is the only thing that we can do. We talked last night all about this and that and how we could change this and that. We have to not pay attention to these things. We have to change ourselves. We have to be people that ask you what you do. You say, I work for peace and justice. And only in this way will it happen. Sheikh Muhammad, Allah yarhamu, he knew this very well. And from the very beginning, he said peace and justice, love, all these things, he mentioned these things. These are the things that we have to work for to change ourselves. We can't change the entire world. It's not possible. But we can, inshallah, change ourselves. And this is what we must do. Anybody ask you what you're doing, you're working for peace and justice. That's the most noble thing to work for in today's world, in any world. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to change myself. Myself. Never mind my wife or my husband or my children. And then my wife or my husband or my children. And then wider, if you can. But most of us have a very hard time even changing ourselves in truth, in reality. So instead of, these high-minded things of what we're going to do and how we can change this and that and the other thing, just to work on changing ourselves. That's what we can do. That's what we can do. So I ask you to do that. Without a doubt, when we look at what is going on in the world, we see around us things that bring great stress and heaviness to our hearts. When your heart feels heavy with stress or grief, remember Allah and surround yourself with dhikr of Allah. Mindful that dhikr refers to all forms of remembrance, including salah, tasbih, tahmeen, tahleel, dua, and the recitation of Quran. By remembering Allah in the way He has taught us to, we are more likely to gain acceptance of our prayers and His mercy in times of difficulty. We are communicating with the only one who not only hears and knows everything, but who can change or help to change our situation and give us the patience to deal with our difficulties. Allah says, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. So remember me, I will remember you. Be grateful to me and do not cover up the truth. That's it. Alhamdulillah, Eid Mubarak everybody. Salam.
Alaikum salam.